At some point, most of us started collecting things we never planned to keep. Not physical things, digital things. A screenshot of a message, a video saved for later, an article we meant to read, a recipe we will probably never cook, a tab we will definitely come back to. At least that's what we tell ourselves. We'll come back to it later. But later is a strange place because somehow later never arrives. The screenshot stays in our gallery. The article stays unread. The bookmark stays untouched. And before long, we're carrying around thousands of little reminders of things we once thought mattered. If you opened your phone right now, you'd probably find them everywhere. A folder full of screenshots, a watch later list that keeps growing, saved posts you forgot existed, notes with a single sentence written 2 years ago, photos taken only to remember something. And what's strange is that none of this feels unusual anymore. It's become one of the most normal habits of modern life. We're constantly saving things, yet we're rarely returning to them. It's almost as if the act of saving something has quietly replaced the act of actually using it. Years ago, saving something usually meant it had value. You saved a photograph because film was limited. You saved a letter because it meant something. You saved a newspaper clipping because you genuinely wanted to keep it. Today, saving requires almost no effort at all. One tap, that's all it takes. The result is that we save for more than we can ever realistically revisit. And maybe that's because most of what we are saving is not information, it's intention. When you save a recipe, you're not really saving ingredients. You're saving the idea of the person you might become, the version of yourself who cooks more, the version who has time, the version who finally tries something new. When you save a workout routine, you're often saving a future version of yourself. When you bookmark an article, you're saving a future moment when you'll finally sit down and read it. When you save a documentary, you're saving the possibility that one day you'll be exactly the kind of person who watches documentaries on a Tuesday evening. the saved item becomes less important than the future you imagine using it. That's why these collections grow so quickly, because they're not just collections of content, they're collections of possibilities, tiny promises we make to ourselves. And promises are much harder to delete than files. That's why cleaning our phone can feel surprisingly emotional. You open a folder expecting to remove clutter. Instead, you find old plans, old interests, old versions of yourself, a screenshot from a hobby you never started, a language course you never finished, an article about moving somewhere new, or maybe a list of books you forgot you wanted to read. Every saved item tells a small story. It's not about what happened, it's about what almost happened. And sometimes that's even harder to let go of, because deleting something isn't always deleting information. Sometimes it feels like deleting a possibility. The strange thing is that most of these saved items were never meant to become memories. A screenshot is usually taken in a hurry. A bookmark created in seconds. A note is written quickly before moving on. Yet, years later, these random fragments can reveal more about our lives than the things we intentionally preserved. You can scroll through old saved items and see entire periods of your life. The month you became interested in photography, the year you wanted to learn guitar, the weeks you researched a trip you never took, the phase when you became obsessed with productivity, the brief period when you thought waking up at 5 in the morning might somehow change everything. These forgotten collections become accidental diaries, not of what we did, but of what captured our attention. And attention is a very powerful thing, because our attention often reveals who we are and who we're becoming before we even realize it ourselves. The things we save are rarely random. Something about them stood out enough to make us stop, even if only for a few seconds. In a world designed to keep us scrolling, stopping is significant. Saving something is a small act of recognition. It's a way of saying, this matters. The funny part is that sometimes saving something provides enough satisfaction on its own. Think about how often you have saved a video without watching it, or bookmarked an article without reading it. The action itself creates a feeling of completion, as if your brain says, "Good, we won't lose this," and then immediately moves on. The problem is that modern life gives us more information than we could ever possibly process. Every day brings new videos, new articles, new recommendations and ideas. There's always more to consume than there's time to consume it. So we save things, not because we're organized, but because we are trying to keep up. Saving becomes a way of dealing with abundance, a way of telling ourselves that we don't have to decide right now. We will decide later. The difficulty is that tomorrow arrives carrying another 100 things worth saving, and then another 100 after that. Eventually, our collection becomes impossible to catch up on. The watch later list becomes longer than we could finish in a year. The bookmarks become invisible. The screenshots, they become buried beneath thousands of newer ones. And yet, we continue saving. Not because the system works, because hope is built into the habit. Every save contains a quiet belief that our future self will somehow be more organized, more focused, and have more free time than we do now. Future us is always going to read this article and watch this video, learn the skill, start the hobby. Future us has everything under control, but usually becomes present us. And present us is just as busy as before. Maybe that's why these collections can feel strangely comforting. They remind us that we are still curious, still interested. Even if we never return to most of what we save, the habit itself says something hopeful. It means we are still looking forward, still finding things that spark our attention, still believing that some future day might hold enough space for all of these unfinished intentions. And maybe that's the real reason we save things we will never look at again. Not because we expect to use them, but for a moment they represented a possibility, a version of ourselves we hadn't met yet. And sometimes preserving that possibility feels worthwhile all on its own. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, thanks for watching.